Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and here with me, as always, is my co-host, my husband, my roommate, my business partner, my
keep going,
my bestie in the world, my co-dog dad. How many ways can I intro you today? What else am I missing?
I don't know. The most handsome, the most sexy. I mean, keep going. We can do this all day, every day.
Yeah, you're just taking the words right out of my mouth.
Exactly.
Omar Pozos here with me today, co-host and husband over here. How you doing, Omar?
I am. I'm a little scatterbrained today because we're traveling tomorrow for a business mastermind, and so unfortunately, as always, I have delayed
packing.
Yes, delayed my packing. And so this afternoon I was looking at my calendar. I'm like, all right, I've got calls till like 5 or 6. I'm like, by the time I pack and eat and get ready for tomorrow, I'm like, here we go again, another late night. But you know what? I like traveling, and I kind of shared this with you. I'm excited to go. We're going to Nashville, but I'm excited to just get out of our environment, get to do some work on the business and just learn from other people. So I'm very excited for that. How are you?
I'm good. I started packing on Saturday, so
You were very proactive today.
Ahead of schedule. But yeah, definitely a little tired, a little busy. We had a later call last night with the team, and even one of our coaches messaged me, was like, "You're a little quiet on the call. Are you okay?" I was like, honestly, I think I'm just tired. I was like, I'm good. I'm just busy right now. And it's one of those things. I even told her, I'm like, it's one of those things though, where I'm like, I'm good though, because it's what a blessing to be busy doing something that you love, and what a blessing to be tired because you're doing meaningful work that requires energy and requires focus. And it's like, I'm very content, but yeah, just
nonetheless, it's still tiring.
Yeah. Well, today we're going to talk about the urgency loop. So this is a topic that sometimes I'll bring into coaching, but it was something that's been relevant for me recently. I've been thinking about this even in my own life, because this is a concept that can apply to a lot of things. It can apply to, what we'll talk about a little bit in terms of cravings. I think a lot of people find themselves where they have intentions of eating certain things, but then they might be like, but now I'm really craving this thing, and then I gave into the craving, and now I feel guilty, and they kind of end up in that guilt loop, right? And we also can apply this, and where I've been even applying this with myself more recently is even within urgency within work. Something I've shared with my team is something I'm actively really working on, is finding the difference between what feels urgent and what is actually important. Because especially as CEO of a growing company, there's always things that feel urgent at any given moment. And in order to be able to actually have the biggest impact, you have to really differentiate between what is something that feels urgent but isn't actually that important enough to pull away focus versus what are the things that are truly important in that moment. So this concept, it can apply to a lot of things, and I hope that you all walk away from this episode with maybe a lot of different areas of life that you can apply this.
Yeah, honestly, this is hitting home for me. Especially, you mentioned us being tired and just work being a lot. This has been, I feel like, my cycle these last 2 or 3 weeks, where I've been very just reactive to notifications and or my calendar. So I think for me, as we go through this, it's going to be more work and or calendar related. But I'm excited. Let's dive in.
Yeah. So let's think about when you have a craving for something. So let's say you are planning.
I'm closing my eyes over here. I'm like, okay.
Let's say that maybe it's because you're tracking macros and you've planned out your day, and you've you've filled your kind of planned nutrients for the day, and you get to the end of the night, you're tired, you're feeling like, man, today was a hard day, and suddenly now you're like, you know what? I thought I was done eating for the day. Based on the plan of what I chose to eat today, I was planning to stop eating early so that I am going to bed not on a full stomach, all the things. But suddenly now I'm tired. I worked later than planned, and now I'm like, I really am just having this craving for this thing. When we have this craving, when we have this desire within us, this is ultimately this feeling that we're seeking out a change in our internal feelings, right? So maybe it's this feeling of I feel tired, and what I'm seeking is a feeling of comfort. So ultimately you have this desire within you, but what ultimately causes us to really act on the desire is this feeling of urgency with it. It's this feeling of, I need to have it right now. I need that feeling now in this moment. because we can try and talk ourselves out of like, oh, well, have this thing later, tomorrow, different times, but it's always this thing of like, but I need it now, right? It's the urgency that comes with it. So when it comes to this urgency loop where you have the urgency, you act on the urgency, you get something from it, you get like this, feeling of dopamine
response.
Yeah, exactly. You get this hit of dopamine. It kind of feeds the cycle to where now your brain, again, next time you have that same craving, your brain's associating wanting that dopamine response, and you feed into it and you kind of continue down this path and you create this loop of where it feels even more urgent again the next time, right? We're kind of feeding into that feeling. So how do we break it? Well, first thing, we have to insert a pause. I think this is the power of slowing down. Like we talk about that in every aspect of life. If we all just need to slow down a little bit more. And with this, majority of the time, the problem is that we're all moving too fast. We're all in this place where we're just going from one thing to the next. We get this feeling, we desire this other feeling, we just quickly move towards it. If we can just agree to just not even going to say we're going to change our action, if we're going to say, oh, I'm not going to indulge in the craving, I'm not going to, give in to the urge. We're not worrying about what's going to happen or what's not going to happen yet. Purely what we want to do is just insert in a pause. Because if you take that little bit of space where you take a step back and you just acknowledge, and my favorite thing is to write it down, because if you get it out of your head, you get it down on paper, it can make such a huge difference. Write down what the urge is. I'm having this urge to eat this thing. Or in my instance of the example where I've been feeling this more recently, it's I have this urge of I need to answer that message right now. It's like, oh, I was focused doing this other thing, but I saw this notification come through and I just have this urge of like, I gotta go answer that message right now. Pause and sit with it and just write down the urge and just notice the urge. Sit with the urge, acknowledge the feeling right there. That step alone is going to create so much power within you to actually recognize that you're in control. You're not being controlled by this external urge. You are in control right now. With this, then I like to also acknowledge what is the story going on in our brains, because our brain is really, really good at creating a case for why we need to do the thing right now, why we need to have the thing right now. Our brain will find every evidence to support that argument. And so that's where, again, I really encourage writing. Write down what is like the argument your brain is creating for why you want the thing, why you need the thing, why does it have to happen right now? Write it all out. This is where it's super important then to look at it and be on the lookout. What are the things that we're saying are true, but might not necessarily be true?
What do you mean by that?
So like on the example on like the work side for me. So I might have this urge of, okay, I'm doing this thing in deep work, but I know this message popped up and I'm like, I want to just go and answer that message right now. Well, my brain might start creating these stories of, well, if I don't answer this message right now, then that person's going to be, mad at me.
Oh, I see. Okay.
If I don't answer this message right now, then there could be a bigger problem that comes from this. Or if I don't answer this message right now, how am I going to be perceived? Are people going to think that I'm not responsive?
Yeah.
Like there's going to be all these different stories that pop up.
And I imagine that probably pops into like, am I going to be a bad mom, or am I not going to be a good, leader or CEO or whatever that looks like too, right?
Yeah, not a bad mom for me because this is
no, I'm saying just for people in general. Like if it's,
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
More
dog mom.
Yeah, it's all the roles that we play that we can start to create our identity around. That's a lot of what this comes back to, is like it's the identity piece of, we think, well, I want to be perceived as this thing. I'm carrying this identity of this is who I am, and our brain can start to create these narratives of if I do this or I don't do this, then I'm not that way. On the flip side, it could be something more of like with the food craving. That could be a completely different thing, but it could be these reasons of like maybe your brain's creating this narrative of like oftentimes people tend to crave the things that they think they aren't allowed to have. When they say allowed, oftentimes these are something that you are choosing for one reason or other. Maybe it's something that was a recommendation of like, hey, based on, what you're working on, your goals, your, symptoms, your health concerns, different things. It's like, hey, it's recommended not to have this thing. And ultimately, you're still making the choice of like, okay, I'm choosing that because I want to feel this way and because I understand how this thing could be affecting me, I'm going to choose not to have those things. But now they change the narrative to be like, I can't have this. That's not true. You're choosing not to have the thing. So
yeah,
now,
you're a grown person, basically.
Now, basically, yes.
Well, actually.
Now our brains are creating this narrative, right, of I need to have this thing right now because I'm not going to be able to have it again. How many times have, I know in the past when I would go on something really restrictive, and then I'd be like, oh, this is going to be my new way of eating for the rest of my life. So in anticipation of feeling restricted, I need to eat all the things right now.
Yeah.
The reason that I can, maybe go in and out of different protocols that might be inherently a little bit more restrictive, because there might be certain things that we are or aren't including within a protocol when it comes to, certain foods and things. The reason why I can navigate those feelings and not feel this urgency need anymore with it, even someone like myself who struggled with binge eating in the past, it comes down to self-trust. It comes down to truly, I trust there is nothing that I cannot have. There is nothing that I'm never going to have again unless I choose to never have that thing again. Ultimately, I trust myself that it is truly a choice and that I am allowed to do the different things and allowed to have all the things.
Yeah.
So coming back to this kind of breaking the urgency loop. So we write down the urge. We've created this pause, this space of where we're not yet saying, I'm not going to give in to the urge. We're just saying, hey, I'm just going to take a beat here. And I'm going to write down, what is the urge I'm having? I'm going to write down, what are the reasons that my brain is making this an urgency? What are the reasons my brain is telling me I need to have this now? Not, oh, well, I could have it tomorrow when I can plan for it. I could have it, after this protocol when I am no longer choosing not to have that thing, or, whatever it is, right? It's, no, I need to have it right now. I really want that feeling that thing's going to give me right now, right? Well, now write down what is the true cost of indulging in the urge. Because if you choose to indulge in the urge, that is your choice. And we're going to talk about that next. But where this space comes in is purely acknowledging that everything is a trade-off and that everything has a cost. And you're ultimately deciding, do I want to trade the cost of feeling uncomfortable, sitting with this urge, sitting with this feeling, for the cost that might be, let's say, following that example of you're currently not eating something because that is causing a flare-up of symptoms in your body, or it is contributing to a flare-up of symptoms in your body. You're like, well, my cost of if I choose to eat the thing is that I might have a flare-up of symptoms in my body. And we're not putting morality around these things of oh, I am bad if I indulge in this. I am good if I don't. We're purely just looking at what is the trade-off? What is the cost? And that's where you're giving yourself power now to make the decision from an informed, slower, intentional place. And that's where you get to make the choice. It's not the right choice is now to not give in to the urge. Maybe it is, because at times, in my example, maybe at times it is right for me to go ahead and turn to the thing that feels urgent. Maybe that's what I do feel like is the right thing to do in that moment, but I won't know if I truly believe that's the best choice for me to make in that moment unless I take the space and actually sit with it and actually weigh it out and actually decide. Do you ever feel this way in work?
Yeah, I feel it's so... I understand what you're saying, and I do think it's obviously, it's good to have a framework, it's good to have a process to be able to do it, but I think also it's not as easy as it sounds, meaning there's so many just beliefs and or dopamine reactions, or just these different, urges of feelings that you get from the thing that you're about to do. So what and the reason I say this is because I do think that we have a lot of listeners that are, moms and, have had a history of restrictive approaches in the past. And so I say all of this to be I hear you. And I don't think it's going to be something where you're like, oh my gosh, Vanessa said on Monday that, if I just write this down, all the cravings are going away. I think a lot of it starts with awareness is number one. And that's worked for me super well at first. And then from there being okay, well, if I don't want to feel XYZ symptom, or if I don't want to feel XYZ way, I'm then something's got to change. And so it starts with me starting to recognize that pattern. And then you don't have to do all of these things, or at least you tell me your thoughts, Ness. But to me, I'm okay, if I could just at least write down the urge, or a big one that has always worked for me. I'm if I really want this thing, I'm let me drink a glass of water first and then see if I still want it. Or let me go for a walk and then see if I still want to do the thing. And so I think it starts with just breaking this down, and one, for you, getting super clear and honest as to what your priorities are, what your expectations are of the thing that you're doing, meaning why are you trying to do the thing to begin with? And then from there, starting by breaking it down one step at a time, so that when you get to a place where you can do a lot of these things and break a lot of these beliefs and or, actions, you're going to be ready for it. But I think breaking it down, starting with awareness, just taking it simple by simple is key, because I think a lot of people are wanting to break these cycles, overnight and over the weekend. But I'm like, it took you years to get here. So you have to be also gracious with yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You got to build that self-trust one step
muscle,
at a time. Yeah. It is. It's a muscle that you have to exercise. You have to work and get stronger and actually believe in yourself of like, oh, I can sit with this feeling. I'm going to be okay. But you said something that's really important there too, of it doesn't mean that you have to just like truly sit with the feeling forever. Like, I think that's important, but you also can go and try and get that urge met with something differently too, if it serves you in that moment, to where there might be something of like, if we're talking food cravings, there might be something else that we can have instead, to where it's like, oh, I can still kind of get the feeling that I was seeking out, but in a way that supports me a little bit more. And then I can really sit in that feeling to be like, wow, I got what I wanted. I feel the like craving being met, yet I also feel proud of myself because I'm still kind of sticking with my plan. I felt I made more of an intentional choice. I wasn't controlled by my cravings. I was actually thinking this through. That feels really good. That creates an actual loop to where now we feel good in a different way. We want to continue to feed that loop.
I mean, one thing like work related, and this is just top of mind because we have been in a phase of work where things have been very busy, like all great stuff, but still busy nonetheless. But I'm like, okay, so there's always going to be more to do. There's always going to be more responsibilities, for our listeners that are moms, that have kids, that have families. Like there's always more and more and more. And so like one thing that you've always taught about or talked about and taught the whole team is about like just picking like your big 3 tasks for today. And I'm like, okay, well, there's always going to be more to do, but as long as I can get these 3 things done, to me, that's an accomplishment. And going back to like the health and fitness side of things or craving side of things, I'm like, okay, well, there's always going to be more things that I want. There's always going to be more urges or more cravings. So to me, I'm like, okay, as long as I can eat, I don't know, quote unquote, within my plan, whatever I'm working towards, 5 days out of the week or 6 days out of the week to start, I'm like, great, that's amazing. And then the one day I can have a meal where I'm like, I am going to give into my cravings because I also want to enjoy myself. So I think it starts with that aspect first and foremost, and just starting to improve upon that. But again, I go back to kind of what I just said. I think where a lot of people get it wrong, it's that all or nothing mentality. And that's, I think, part of what keeps so many people stuck.
100%. Yeah. Take it one step at a time with this. I really do think that the biggest step with breaking the urgency loop is acknowledging it and really taking the space, creating the space, acknowledging the urge, acknowledging what's driving the urge, acknowledging what your brain is telling you, why we need to indulge in this urge right now. Why does this feel urgent? What is actually driving this? What does your brain telling you that may not actually be true? And just sitting with that right there, that is where the power is. I promise you, acknowledging those things, then, those next steps of actually acknowledging what would be the cost of indulging in the urge, and then ultimately, making the decision of whether or not we want to indulge in the urge, or, kind of deciding what we want to do from there. Those things, that's the cherry on top of the cake. Just start with truly acknowledging the urge. If nothing else, that's where you're going to start to gain your power. That really is where your power is. So I hope that this was helpful, keeping it a little bit more short and sweet today to give you guys something to chew on, something to think about here. And I
no
really
pun intended. Get it?
I want you to think about how you can apply this to all the different areas of your life, because truly urgency is what's driving so much within our lives that is creating so much dissatisfaction, so much stress, so much fear and worry, is this sense of urgency. But I promise you, slow down. Give yourself the space to truly determine what is actually important, not just what feels urgent. Trust yourself that you can sit with that feeling of urgency, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's just, feels like it's building up in your body. Trust yourself, you can sit through with it. And then once you get to the other side, that's where you're going to build that self-trust, and you're going to realize, I can do this, and you're going to build upon it from there.
I like that. That's a really good insight or a good framework to follow.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another great episode.
Bye, everybody.